In just 5 minutes, a crucial mistake sealed the fate of the JonBenét case, a mystery that has dragged on for 28 years, all because no one noticed the biggest slip-up at the moment it happened. And the question that never goes away: how did no one see? Early morning of December 26, 1996, the Ramsey house is enveloped in silence. Outside, ice covers the garden. Inside, the scent of pine still lingers in the air, a remnant of a night that was supposed to be happy. Upstairs, John and Patsy Ramsey are asleep. Both are exhausted after Christmas celebrations. JonBenét, their 6-year-old daughter, should also be in bed, but something terrible happened. Her body is hidden in the basement, a dark and stuffy space at the back of the house, where no one thinks to look immediately. The only clue left in plain sight is a ransom letter, long and strange, found on the stairs. The police arrive early, shortly after 6 a.m., and are greeted by Patsy, who is still in her pajamas and visibly nervous. Family friends are already in the house, trying to support the Ramseys, but in practice, this only complicates things. Police officers circulate through the rooms, touch objects, and allow others to do the same. The crime scene, which should have been preserved, turns into a silent and disordered chaos. Every touch, every step erases an important clue. The atmosphere becomes more tense as hours pass. The police seem lost, not knowing where to start. John tries to maintain his composure, but his eyes reveal exhaustion and frustration. He silently wonders if he should have checked the basement first. Doubt gnaws at him. What if I had? But he pushes the thought away, as if wanting to protect himself from inevitable guilt. Patsy, on the other hand, is on the verge of a breakdown, alternating between sobs and attempts to stay calm. A mix of fear and desperation hangs in the air, suffocating those present. The gravest mistake is about to happen, and it will change everything irreversibly. The Boulder police do not immediately call in sniffer dogs. The dogs were ready to act that morning and could have sniffed out JonBenét's body hidden in the basement within minutes. If that had happened, the police would have known that the girl had never left the house and that the ransom note was a sham. The case could have taken a different turn immediately. But instead of relying on dogs and objective evidence, the investigators get stuck on the kidnapping narrative. The note, with its absurdly long 3 pages, confuses everyone. The letter seems to have been written in the house itself, but the police decide to follow it as if it were a legitimate clue. Amid internal debates and indecisions, time keeps slipping away. If the dogs had entered then, in the heat of the moment, they might have sensed JonBenét's scent and found her body in minutes. But with the basement out of sight and no obvious signs of forced entry, the officers don't see the urgency. They don't know they are missing the only real opportunity to clarify what happened that early morning. After hours of uncertainty, John finally decides to the weight of doubt grow, as if he's about to discover something he can never undo. When he comes up, carrying JonBenét's body in his arms, the atmosphere freezes. No one breathes. Patsy lets out a scream that seems to pierce the walls and echo throughout the house. The police now know the case is not a kidnapping, but it's too late. The crime scene is completely compromised, and the crucial first moments were wasted forever. Confusion in the Ramsey house only increases as morning progresses. The police try to maintain order, but it's clear the situation has spiraled out of control. Patsy keeps repeating, as if it were a mantra, "Why is this happening to us?" John, with a lost look, watches the police and friends move through the house like ghosts. With each passing minute, it seems the chances of clarifying what happened are slipping away. One officer hesitates at the basement door, observing the dark space below. He frowns as if he's about to go down, but then gets distracted when someone calls him from the living room. It's another question about the ransom note. "Have you called the FBI yet?" asks John, trying to regain some control over the situation. The response is vague, as if the police themselves don't really know what to do. The decision not to call sniffer dogs starts to weigh like a shadow. If they had acted faster, could the story have been different? One investigator comments that calling the dogs might not be necessary, believing JonBenét is out there, kidnapped, as the note suggests. This kind of doubt seems minor at the moment, but it's precisely where things start to go off track. Meanwhile, Patsy grabs John's arm, panic setting in. What if She doesn't finish the sentence. John just shakes his head, as if trying to push the thought away. They need to believe there's a chance, however small. But with every unanswered question, with every minute lost, hope becomes more distant. Tension reaches its peak when John decides to act on his own. He looks around, as if seeking silent permission, and then announces, "I'm going to search the basement." No one stops him. Maybe because no one really believes JonBenét could be there. John's footsteps echo as he descends the stairs. The air in the basement is colder, almost damp, and a faint smell of mold mixes with something indefinable, something he can't immediately identify. The flashlight in his hand trembles, casting shadows on the concrete walls. Suddenly he sees it, a white blanket folded oddly in the corner. His heart tightens in his chest, and for a moment, he desperately wishes he's wrong. But as he approaches and pulls the fabric, his world crumbles. There is JonBenét, motionless, silent, like a broken doll someone hid in the darkest part of the house. For a moment, John freezes. He hears the sound of his own breathing, quick and heavy, as he tries to process what's before him. JonBenét, he murmurs, almost as if calling her to wake up, but there's no response. He climbs back up with his daughter's body in his arms, legs wobbling with each step. As soon as he enters the room, Patsy lets out a scream that seems to shatter the air like breaking glass. She throws herself on the floor, crying, unable to comprehend what she's seeing. Friends recoil in shock, as if the girl's body is tangible proof of their collective failure. And then everything changes. There's no longer a kidnapping, no longer a ransom note. Now it's a murder. The police realize, too late, that the chance to solve the case was lost in the first few hours. John holds JonBenét's body in his arms as the surroundings plunge into a heavy, surreal silence. No one knows what to say. Patsy kneels on the floor, face buried in her hands, mumbling incoherent things between sobs that tear through the air like blades. The cold smell of the basement seems to now mingles with the light fragrance JonBenét used to wear, making everything even more suffocating. The officers in the room exchange bewildered looks. Some lower their heads, realizing that the gravest mistake has already been made. They didn't use the dogs, they didn't isolate the scene, they didn't interrogate anyone at the right time. And now, what? How to fix something that was broken from the start? The clock seems to taunt them, each passing second a cruel reminder of what they could have done. The weight of guilt spreads among them like a thick cloud. One of the newer officers approaches John carefully, but his expression is pure panic. He opens his mouth to say something, but nothing comes out. What words could repair that? John looks at him with a distant gaze, as if he's there but miles away. Then softly, almost like a lament, John asks, "How could this happen?" And that's the question no one can answer. Outside the house, the sky is getting lighter, but inside everything feels darker than ever. Everyone in that place knows that lost time will never be recovered. The dogs that could have sniffed out the body early on are now a bitter memory. Someone whispers to another, "If only we had brought the dogs." The officer who suggested not using the dogs feels a knot in his stomach. And if that simple no need had changed everything, he knows that decision will haunt him forever, like a shadow that never disappears. Meanwhile, Patsy tries to approach her daughter's body, but her knees give out. She reaches out her trembling hands toward JonBenét, but can't touch her. It's as if the pain is so immense that her body refuses any proximity to that reality. John finally places his daughter's body on the floor and kneels beside his wife. Patsy looks at him and whispers, "I should have heard that scream. I should have done something." The most experienced officer finally finds his voice. "We need to investigate this thoroughly. Justice will be served." But no one there truly believes it. The crime scene is ruined, the most important clues erased or contaminated. The investigation is already born with its feet tied. Every wrong decision makes it harder and harder to find an answer, and everyone knows it. Tension in the room is palpable. It feels like everyone there is waiting for someone to break the silence, but no one knows how to continue. One of the officers finally sighs and says quietly, "We should have done everything differently." Now that JonBenét's body was found in her own home, it's clear the ransom note was staged. But who wrote it? Why would someone do that? These questions swirl in everyone's mind but find no outlet. Patsy, lost between pain and guilt, repeats, "She was here the whole time. How didn't we see her?" The room is enveloped in a silence that feels alive, as if the house itself absorbs the weight of the mistake that cost so much. The police try to move, but it's as if they're stuck in time, paralyzed by the certainty that they did everything wrong. Patsy is still on the floor, her sobs now slower, as she holds John's arm tightly, as if he were her anchor. Every tear that rolls down her face is like a painful reminder that her daughter was there, so close, and they failed to find her in time. John stands up but doesn't seem fully aware of what he's doing. He walks around the room like a man in a trance, stopping by a window, looking out as if he's trying to find some logic in the chaos that has fallen over them. The cold morning light begins to flood the house, illuminating surfaces where, hours earlier, they still had hope. Now hope is gone, leaving only emptiness and questions. "And now," Patsy whispers, as if the answer is floating in the air, waiting to be grabbed by someone. The oldest officer clears his throat, but there's no conviction in his voice when he responds. "Now, we need to do things the right way. We can't lose anything else." But his words sound hollow. How to do things the right way after so many wrong decisions? The crime scene is compromised. Clues have mixed with footprints of friends, police, and even the the family itself. And JonBenét, her body was moved, carried in her father's arms. Each of these mistakes is an obstacle that only grows as time passes. As minutes drag on, the police finally decide to bring in the sniffer dogs. But now the feeling is that they are too late. The image of what could have happened burns in their minds. If they had called the dogs upon arrival, they would have led the officers straight to the basement. And if JonBenét had been found there, the intact scene could have revealed more. Fibers, prints, some clear sign of what really happened that night. One officer, feeling frustration grow inside him, mutters, "If we had found her at 7 in the morning." Another officer agrees silently. It's impossible not to think about the consequences. If they had discovered the body earlier, maybe the parents would have been taken in for questioning right away while the memories were still fresh. Every minute after that made the memories more nebulous, allowing narratives to form and crucial details to be lost forever. Deep down, everyone in that house knows it wasn't just JonBenét's body that stayed in the basement that morning. The truth also got stuck down there, suffocated by wrong decisions, hesitation, and assumptions made in the rush to solve a mystery that now spans decades. In the end, what remained of that December 26th was more than just an unsolved crime. It was wrong decisions, choices made in the heat of the moment that, one after another, pushed the truth further away. And perhaps that's the most unsettling part. The chance to solve everything in minutes was there, in the hands of the first officers who stepped into the house. If the dogs had been called right away, if the scene had been isolated from the start, if the statements had been taken at the right moment, the JonBenét case could have been closed before it even began. The JonBenét mystery persists, like a puzzle with missing pieces. The parents, the ransom note, nothing is certain, and each answer seems to create new questions. The search continues. Will we ever uncover the truth? And so the weight of lost hours continues to haunt everyone involved in the case. Investigators, family members, and, of course, we, mystery hunters, who try to piece things together even so many years later. JonBenét Ramsey is not just a victim of a brutal crime. She is also a victim of the disorder and negligence that marked the first hours of the investigation. Sometimes the greatest monster isn't who commits the crime, but the human failures that prevent the truth from coming to light. Not every monster hides in the shadows. When power is revealed, the story changes. And that's exactly what happened here. But the lingering question is, how do we deal when we are the ones who need to change? Do we face the truth head on or continue making excuses for our mistakes? And now I ask, what would you do if you were in Alan's place? Would you change your behavior or continue as always? Comment, "I am change," if you believe that every day is a chance to do better. If you believe in the strength of these stories and want to continue the fight for truth and justice, subscribe to the channel now. And don't forget to activate the notification bell so you don't miss any of the upcoming videos. The most powerful story is yet to come. Mystery hunters, we want to hear from you. Do you have any story suggestions for the channel? How about more videos on inequality, overcoming challenges, or unexpected encounters that change lives? Leave them in the comments, and maybe the next story will be inspired by your idea. If you thought this story was impactful, wait until you see the next one. An unexpected encounter and an impossible choice. Are you ready to face the truth? Don't miss it. See you next time, where every voice makes a difference. Don't miss the upcoming cases. Subscribe now and join the hunt. The darkest secrets are still out there, waiting to be uncovered. Thus, you won't miss the next videos, including other cases as intriguing as JonBenét's. The JonBenét story is not just about a brutal crime. It's a painful reminder of how lost minutes can cost a lifetime of answers. That night revealed something deeper, that the true enemy is sometimes not just the killer, but human failure, hesitation, pride, and wrong assumptions. The quest for justice continues, but what remains is the unsettling feeling that if the mistake hadn't happened, everything could have been different. And that leads us to an important reflection. How many times is the truth within our reach, but fails to be discovered due to a poorly made choice? The JonBenét case is one of those mysteries that haunts us, not only because of the crime, but because of what could have been. It's like an open wound that never fully heals, a story that refuses to be forgotten. We might never know all the answers, but the search for them is what keeps us vigilant. After all, evil doesn't rest. It might be closer than we think. Now, if you're intrigued and want to continue this journey with me, click on the next video on the end screen. We'll dive even deeper into a case that promises unexpected twists and emotions that only a true mystery hunter understands. Click now and discover how far the human mind can go when evil hides in plain sight. Finally, I leave you with a last personal reflection. Something I've learned through all these stories is that the truth never right moment to be found, and the quest for that truth is what keeps us moving forward. If you made it this far, comment, "I am a mystery hunter. Only true hunters reach the end, and I want to know who you are." If you found these unsolved mysteries intriguing, get ready for the next video. In it, we dive even deeper into what you, mystery hunters, love most: unexpected twists and dark secrets. Click now and discover how far the human mind can go when evil hides in plain sight. Stay tuned, because evil might be closer than you imagine. Until the next investigation.